And it is driven by a lack of understanding, and I think a lack of just compassion towards cannabis users. It's new that cannabis use is mainstream, and it's new that it's not considered like a dirty undercover habit. This is actually how people heal themselves and medicate themselves, and yes, recreate. Let's talk about weed, guys. My name is Bri Padilla. I'm a cannabis professional, advocate, and content creator. It's nice. I love my industry, the community of it, and my personal connection to the people involved have always just pushed me forward and inspired me. Valuing yourself and your craft and not being afraid to dedicate yourself to it is advice that I would give. I would also advise you to look at where else you're passionate and see how you can apply your craft to it. I'm really motivated by the other professionals and peers in my own personal friend group. We're all really dynamic and pushing each other forward, and it's really nice to have people that you value and that value you. Do what you want to do, first of all. What I do may not be what you want to do. Don't be afraid to ask for what you know your craft and your voice are worth. I did go to college, but I was also a resident assistant. I came from lower income background, a bit of a rough childhood, and so I really believed like education is gonna set me up for success for life. I mean, no one told me though that journalism was gonna die like through the internet, literally the year after I started going to school for it. Through my degree experience, I was very fortunate to meet people who had different ways of thinking and of learning and of analyzing data. And for a journalist, that's super important, is that ability to take in a lot of perspectives and information and position it so you get a whole picture of what is going on, and so you can then present that to everybody else in as objective or honest a way as you can. And part of that was also taking on and dealing with students in my RA capacity who education did not serve. But I remember quite vividly sitting with one student in particular. He was just not motivated. The classes that he was in were actually hindering him as a creative. My suggestion to creatives is to really hyper focus on where and how you want to develop and be strategic about it. I loved school. For me, it really helped me, and my education and those credentials do bring their own weight. I would be remiss if I didn't honor the fact that sometimes for some people that framework isn't right, and it's not their fault, and it doesn't mean that they shouldn't pursue something that they're good at and something that they love. Nonprofit work is really important to me. That's probably one of the things that I spend the most time on. I started and trained as a journalist, so that sensibility for storytelling and executing, that's where I got it from, and that's actually where I started covering nonprofit advocates for cannabis and also for healthcare. When I moved back to Vegas, I got the opportunity to actually create content and to storytell professionally for the medical cannabis industry. And through that, I started working and founded a nonprofit out here. And I moved on from there to work with Women Grow and my current business partner, Rebecca Perrick. We threw events for women and with a focus on like education and networking and professional development and really elevating the conversations around cannabis in a more safe and elevated environment. We're more honest to what is happening in the industry, like what is the case for diversity in cannabis and who are the voices that are actually being heard? How are women behaving as consumers, and what does sexual and reproductive health look like when it is talked about in the sense of how cannabis can help? Just to provide, again, a safe woman-centric, woman-led place. And so Lady-Led Collabs is a podcast and a platform that we're building to honor that, but also to grow it for recreational legalization. Cannabis and cannabis events and people essentially were really discriminated against, and we didn't have the access to like the safest venues or the nicest places. So creating an environment that was safe and exciting and always really amazing and fun to be a part of. I'm still doing nonprofits. I'm currently working with two, the Chamber of Cannabis as a communications director, and we are a professional cannabis nonprofit that are actually working as liaisons with regulators and with industry professionals to push forward a social use campaign in 2021. Our legislative session starts in February. So essentially we're hoping to at least get the right to have some business licenses carved out so that people can start to apply and be cannabis business owners for cannabis lounges. And the reason for this is because there was a huge social equity promised me and to our cannabis community here in Nevada by cannabis companies. A cannabis licensee is a special use situation. And so that means in order to qualify, they have actually in their license application community impact plans. And those plans have not all been satisfied. So there's a huge debt that is owed to our community by the cannabis industry. And so one of the best ways for that to be addressed, and one of the last big pieces of the pie where that can be addressed, is social use in cannabis consumption events. And I am also working most recently with CEIC NV, and I am hoping to learn more about how we can push forward a youth reform bill, because our youth are being really policed for cannabis, especially our Black and brown youth. And so the team they have there is absolutely incredible, and they've been really effective at being voices for our community. And so I'm very humbled and excited. And again, it's women-led, to be part of of their organization and help in any way I can. Don't be afraid to ask for help and get yourself organized. You know, some of the creatives that I look up to have business and mentors, and they have people that they meet with that advise them and guide them on and hold them accountable on how to become that next level professional and to use their craft to support themselves while also doing the kind of work that fulfills them. Keep your head up high. I know that's kind of cliche, but just given the times, I think that I've seen a lot of people struggling just to maintain a sense of normalcy. And I think maybe instead of trying to attain that, let's just accept the weirdness for being weird and find the joy and creativity and inspiration in that.
Hey guys, welcome back to season 2 of Stay Creative. I was so happy to sit down with Bri and talk about cannabis, and most importantly, women in the cannabis industry.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. It was an honor to talk to all of you, and it was great to see you again. If you guys want to find out more about the things that I'm up to, you can follow me at Bri Saves the World on Instagram, and I will be talking about all of my fun adventures with the Chamber of Cannabis and lady-led collabs on there, and hopefully get to connect with you guys soon.
Thank you so much again, Bri, for joining us, and for everyone out there, stay creative.